somebody that was at the Thursday meeting must have sent that to you.
Yeah, and your letter.
Because it was not completed.
Yeah, I have.
Is that the letter to the
letter to the Board of
Guthrie?
Supervisors, and then the comparison with all of the clauses. All in here. I have. I forwarded them to you, John. Which is, I mean, it's kind of a moot point, but I'm just saying.
This letter company.
I have it right. So John has seen it.
Well,
Your concerns is the point I'm making.
And I think there's anything can be read out of context with some of these things, the words that get changed. But I think we need to wait till.
That's interesting.
We were told that Dallas County, Guthrie County, and Dallas County Soil and Water Conservation District signed agreements, but they're different from ours. But you're going to go talk to them. I guess my first comment is I'm very interested in hearing what their feedback is to them. And then on the second issue,
The Guthrie County Board of Supervisors.
we were told that the Guthrie
Table
County,
action
the
on
Dallas
section
County,
C.
and the Dallas County Soil and Water.
The Guthrie County Supervisors tabled action last week on signing section C, which is the acceptance of the terms. Okay? The Dallas County Supervisors signed the contract. I don't know where they stand, and since the contract does not come into effect until July 31st, my recommendation to them is that they rescind it before it comes into effect and start over. And I do have a recommended contract that starts over and strengthens the powers of the counties specifically and political subdivisions in general. And I will deliver that to them tomorrow. And I may have, I'm just thinking about it, I may have sent that as an email to the auditor and it's not complete in terms of what because it's different from what I told
I got mine from the Republican Central Committee of Carroll County. So.
I don't know who that would be. Anyway,
I have a related question.
how do these things get around?
Yeah, words fly. On a related thing.
Yes.
County Board of Supervisors in all counties are responsible for drainage. For example, we have 140 some drainage districts in Carroll County.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them have their separate boards, the rest of them we manage. And I just want to know how closely this is tied together. It all involves water.
That's right.
And the drainage districts, of course, they're concerned with farming and drainage districts. What effect, if any, would signing this agreement have on our obligation by Iowa code to fulfill our drainage district responsibilities?
I suspect, and I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not an attorney. Your county attorney would be better able to describe that. However, I believe if that's the case and you have authority to act relative to those drainage, which affects water, that you have empowered this watershed authority to exercise that power, which means that they would have the ability to change or more restrictively rule relative to drainage districts than you might. Okay, that might not stop you from having responsibility, but they would have the ability to rule at any level of restriction that they felt comfortable with, not necessarily the level that you felt comfortable with.
So this agreement, if signed, would their authority would trump ours at that point?
It's not. Well, you see, that's an interesting thing. It's not a matter of trumping, and in fact, there is a clause, and Pat Bodie jumped all over me at the watershed meeting when I said, you know, that you're giving this power to the. No, there's no authority, there's no power given, and besides, there's a supersede clause in here that says the watershed authority can't supersede the governmental entities, and that's the clause. However, I'm not referring to superseding. They're not superseding you. They are exercising your authority and power. Not superseding it, using it. So they're not superseding it, they're just saying, well, we decided that we'd like to be more restrictive than you would be. It's within your purview to do that, but now it's within theirs. And so they didn't supersede you. They used your power to do it their way. This is overreach at the highest levels. This is absolutely, I think it's unconstitutional, but that's a different issue. Okay.
I guess my comfort levels really changed. I felt more comfortable at the beginning because of the termination clause. It was my feeling that if we terminate it, use our 90 days termination, that this was null and void. But you're saying is that just gets us out, but the agreement
I'm
holds.
saying it gets you out and the agreement
Stays.
continues.
Agreement continues.
The agreement continues, and the agreement continues, and I can find in the contract someplace, pardon me if I look for it, but someplace, the agreement continues as long as there are at least 2 voting members, and they have the ability to make those voting members the Sierra Club and the National Wildlife Foundation, or the Humane Society of the United States. They can bring them in, get a grant from them with restrictions, and make them the voting members. And the Watershed Authority continues, and that's the voting membership. This is horrible. You know, it's horrible. And they'll tell you, oh no, you know, that's up to the board to decide. And when they write bylaws, well, guess what? The people behind this have already a draft set of bylaws, which I have not seen. I asked for them, but I haven't seen them.
Very well. Any other
I
comments
guess
or questions?
in comment to that, I mean, the last meeting I was at, they were, and I think Randy, you were there, they were talking about the 2080 agreement and the bylaws didn't correspond with, and they were in the process of putting that together. So
Exactly.
they would,
Yeah.
to this day, we haven't seen.
But this is the contract, and this contract is a disaster. I would never sign it. And if it were my business, I would never sign it. And since the county is my business in Dallas County, I'm going to tell them that.
I'd like to see 2 things, if you can forward them to us, is your proposal of the 2080 agreement. If you get that to us, and then a copy. Now you made reference earlier to Catfish Creek,
Yes.
Indian Creek.
Yes.
Do you have a copy of those 2080 agreements?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to
I have,
see-
there's 4 of them.
Yeah, I have Turkey River.
Yeah, I got them all off the internet. They're all, you know.
Are they all pretty similar?
Yeah, they're all pretty similar. This one's very different. Very different.
Yeah. I would like to, whether I get them from him or I get them off the internet. I need to look at those 2080.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I, and just as an aside, and I can't tie these together, but as a result of my involvement in looking at the Tomorrow Plan in Des Moines, I asked for and received an appointment with Mayor Frank County, and it turned out we spent 2.5 hours in discussion. It was a lot of time, and it was a wide-ranging discussion, but he talked about water issues, and that's one of his main concerns is water issues. And he said the flooding and the quality of the water and so forth. And his statement to me was that the farming practices north and west of the city were causing them problems. And when I see this watershed authority as it's constructed and with an intent based on the master plan and the commentary that the Des Moines Water Works should be a voting member, and they can throw the counties out. It's like, wait a minute, time out. I'm not in favor of this at all.
The toughest thing on any of these is to get the people that, as you commented, into passion. It's tough for us to get the proper appointees, people that would be strongly affected to have the passion to attend all these meetings, to be influential.
Absolutely.
And that's what I've seen as far as seven. That's tough to do.
Absolutely. But the people that are passionate that end up on the board are not the ones you want.
That's fair and not fair, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm
I know
saying.
what you're saying.
Especially with the power that this contract conveys.
Well, again, I think we need to have John look at it.
And I would ask that you send John the document that I brought this morning, because it is the most current, most complete, and I worked on it over the weekend, so I do. That's why I said whatever you got Friday, but I may have emailed that to whoever I asked to be put on the agenda. I may email that to them just as a here's what I'm talking about. So and maybe, but I don't know how it would come from the central committee. I just have no
Well, he
idea.
would have had to have received it.
Yeah, but I didn't send it to him, so somebody may have forwarded it, I don't know who.
Very well.
Okay.
Is there any other comments or questions before I put it out to the public from the board? None other right now from the board. Mike?
Mike Civil with Carroll County Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau has always been in favor of conservation practices, whether voluntary or cautionary. As you see, I gave you the pamphlet this morning. For the last 30 years, our water quality has improved and everything. Through government programs, we have, at this point, there's 2,799 contracts that have improved, which is going to cost about $80 million, which the government has not funded yet because there's not enough money there. So my concerns, well, several concerns are, where's this group going to get the money to promote conservation practices where our government already does not have the money? Mr. Rudolph has raised a lot of questions about the contract. I'm very concerned about that. I appreciate information from, like, county attorney reviews it. Another concern is private property rights. How is this going to affect the private citizen? Another thing is under second page of the article, purposes and authorities of this watershed. Access for flood risk in the subject watershed. I think we got a government body that does that already. Water quality in the watershed, I think we have a government body that does that already. I could list all of them there. I think somebody's doing that already. Unless, and they're under law, under government mandates, law restrictions, whatever. The only thing I can see is maybe they're going to go beyond government restrictions and try to get more restrictive once this is established. Right now, the federal government has authority over any navigable water. As far as being, because this is a private entity, it may go on beyond just navigable waters, or it could go on to regulate the water coming out of the downspout of your house. So, I don't know. This just raises a lot of concerns and a lot of questions.
I can comment on that.
Briefly, we just
Relative
did
to
the
the
agenda.
contract. Section 2 says, in addition to the foregoing, which are the ones you said, gee, there's already people doing that. Okay. In addition to the foregoing, the Alliance may address any other issue that impact the quantity and quality of water within the subject watershed, and may establish programs related to monitoring, protection, and preservation of groundwater, surface water, and related resources to protect water resources in the watershed. That's pretty broad. So they can do anything they want relative to water.
There's my concerns.
And must.
Virginia?
This 200-page document, was that done with a grant?
Oh, of course, yes.
And aren't they involved in wanting to be the director or the manager or whatever term you want to?
I have no idea. I don't have any of that background. All I know is that what I saw in the last week. Now, they may well plan to be, and it wouldn't surprise me if they wanted those people to be the board members.
Are you questioning the RC&D?
That was funded through DNR.
But doesn't Agron want some power in this?
I think the only thing, I know there's several, they're talking about some sort of entity to
Facilitate.
manage it or operate it. And Region 12 names been talked about, and I think Agron, and there's been a lot of names, nobody seems to know that.
But then there's provisions in this contract to allow this. This office, this director, this
Yeah.
all that sort of. Does the waterworks have any skin in it?
I know they have skin in it because I know they have a representative participating in all the meetings.
And they
But-
vote
but-
and
but-
fund and?
Well, the way the contract is written, the board could put them on the board as a voting member.
And with votes comes funding, by taxing authority.
Well, I can't tell you they have taxing authority. They say, no, we don't have that. Well, I don't believe it. So,
I don't see where they've got taxing authority. I see where they've got expenditure authority. And then,
how about fees?
and then we would have to, as members, support the spending, and that would obviously come from taxing, so it'd be.
But could they have fees relative to water quality? There's a fee associated with the things you're doing.
Office space. And
Oh, they got
and
those costs,
administration and all
absolutely,
those
yes.
things. The City of Carroll, you guys certainly, our guests certainly be welcome to hear any comments or questions that you may have.
We have an elected official with us. so we'll let her speak.
I'm Carolyn Seaman, I'm on the city council, and my concern was one vote, a small voice, if we would sign this 2080 agreement, and our rights would get trumped. I had a conversation with Randy. He is very knowledgeable about what is going on and what needs to be done to protect the citizens of Carroll, their tax dollars that may be committed to this. They talk about grants. Some are 100%. Some need a match. How is that paid? How will it be allocated among the parties? I talked to Mark River last week. He is the head of the Carroll County Conservation Board. We have Swan Lake recreational area. They have just drafted a 5-year watershed master plan that is in effect for Swan Lake. And I asked him, will this pit the city against you on any issues that arise among the members of this alliance? He could not foresee any. He sees the value in having some type of alliance, but he had no idea. He was not aware of this 2080 agreement, so he had not read it. My concern is we know, and I went on the Des Moines, well, Linda, who was here and spoke, she works for Des Moines Waterworks. Pat Bodie, was associate director or assistant director of the IDNR. She has extensive, her heart is in the right place as far as protecting water, the environment, and so on. But she works for a large Des Moines architectural firm. And another concern I had is, again, committing local dollars for a political agenda that is not ours. It
Yeah,
has
she
it written
also-
all over it, and
Yeah.
they're very articulate ladies, they're hardworking. I have a lot of respect. Pat has some excellent credentials, and after we tabled this, because I had never heard of this, and I need to study things before I recommend that we sign on the dotted line. So those are my concerns in a nutshell. But I know you're not a lawyer, but whenever they say we don't have a certain right, that stands out to me. And they mention that the alliance will not have or exercise, this is in Article 4, Section 2, any power of eminent domain.
Right.
And shall not acquire any property under eminent domain.
Right.
I don't know how many years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court allows eminent domain to come into play for both public and private ventures. And I just wondered, even though they don't have the party or the power, could they work through an agent? Or, this stood out to me.
Right.
Could they work indirectly to exercise this right? I don't want to, we are successful around here because of ag. I don't want to be
Right.
pitted against our landowners. I don't want the city pitted against the county board of supervisors. They know a lot more than I do about agriculture.
I can address both of those
Okay, so that's all. I don't want to
quickly.
address,
If
Randy may
you'd
have
like.
some thoughts. were
I
there.
commented that eminent domain thing. It said regulation, which is in the domain of the authority, can effectively take the property of those who are in the watershed without remuneration or condemnation, just by regulation.
Okay.
And
So,
that's the concern.
Okay.
And as far as ag is, and I understand, I recognize that the Raccoon River Valley and the Raccoon River Watershed is primarily an agricultural area. I chose to live here because I like the environment. I like the lifestyle. And in the discussions at the planning meeting in the Hotel Patti, they said, we've got to clean up the river because it's going to be good for ecotourism and economic development. And it's like, you're not going to replace the economy of the agriculture with ecotourism, trust me.
Very good. Anything else? Any other questions,
Thank you.
Hubert?
Yes, I'm Hubert Eggman and I represent myself. I would, first
That
off...
makes two of us.
First off, I'd like to thank you for your time and effort in doing what you have for as far as the 2080 agreement. But I also would like to recommend to the board that they do not accept this agreement as is. And before you accept an agreement of any kind in this watershed, I would suggest that you have a representative from the Iowa Soybean Association come and speak to you, because you are really getting one side of the story. And I know Linda from the Waterworks. I've dealt with the Waterworks. I like Linda from the Waterworks. But Linda is getting paid by the Waterworks. I like Eggman's, but I've also dealt with Eggman's. And I like Pat Bodie, but I've also dealt with Pat Bodie. And I see too much from what's happening here from one side of the story. And so I think that there is lots of things have happened in the watershed in the last number of years that we in agriculture have done, not alone here in the county, but in the other parts too. And so I would suggest very strongly that you talk and have somebody from the Soybean Association and maybe somebody from the Iowa Farm Bureau talk to you about what agriculture has done and to help the situation in Des Moines. And I'm in favor of environment, because I do all no-tilling, so I consider one of those that would be more for the environment. But I also am concerned about the rules and regulations that the activists can put on us and shut us down. And we're seeing that way too much. In my opinion, this is outside of the watershed, but with all of the activists going to the big businesses to tell us how to raise our animals, and how to do things. And it's going to be shutting us down. And this is going to affect the economy in this state, and in this county, and in this town.
Thank you, Hubert. Just to partly correct you, we have heard from the other side now. So, and quite clearly, there's nobody at this board, at this table, that certainly wants to do anything to, further hamper or over-regulate agriculture. Certainly not in this county. And I appreciate recommendations from the Iowa Soybean Association, perhaps the Iowa Farm Bureau. It's all about education, and for me alone, I certainly can't get enough of that. What I'm enlisting, being there's certainly city officials here and other members along the watershed and the media is, although I appreciate this education process, I want to hear from members of our county.
As you should.
And as you are, as you people are, and to see, we can all agree that there's benefits to a watershed agreement. Okay. And there might be possibilities to leverage some things that might be very good for our landowners and for our constituents and certainly for the residents. So that's why we're even considering it. And although I appreciate your recommendation to reject the 2080, my recommendation to the board is to neither accept it or reject it without furthering the education process. We want to leave the door open for anything that might benefit residents of this county. But more importantly, we're not going to feel like we're under any kind of guise or misunderstanding that we have to act today or by July 1st or even July 31st. That this education process is most beneficial for all of us so that we as elected officials can make decisions that are best for the people in this county. So with that, anybody else care to comment? If not, we'll move on.
I guess Neil had a question regarding the drainage issues in the county. To legal people we have worked with Hudson.
Right.
That might be something to address that also.
Actually, the whole association of Iowa Drainage Associations should be aware of this.
Does any of you, either one of you, have any direct contacts with those people that would know how to make that happen? Just give them numbers. Yeah, I'd like to, hear from totally neutral, parties in this as well. So I think that'd be beneficial for us as well.
I will send you the other 4 agreements that I have copies. I got them off the web, but yourself. But I have the attachments. I have the attachments, and I can just send them by email.
We can do that. Just send us
But I will send my
your
revised
perfect watershed. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's perfect, but it's revised, and it certainly strengthens the power of the county
Fair, yeah.
to the detriment of the watershed authority. But that's my view.
Right.
And the one question that you might consider asking your county attorney is, as this contract is written, I believe that it may have the ability for the watershed authority to exercise a power that's granted in a different jurisdiction, any place in the watershed, and that's what's not clear to me. Which means if the city of Des Moines became a member, would a law that they pass be able to be exercised in Carroll County relative to water? And it's like, that's kind of strange, but it wouldn't surprise me the way it's written. And that would be a question for the attorney, because we're really getting in the legal weeds at that point.
Very good.
Anything else, or?
No, I think in the interest of balance the agenda, we'll move forward unless there's any further comment.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time. Thank you.